All right, welcome back to part two of our fourth episode.
Sure, we'll go with number 4.
Yeah, that could be. We could edit that out.
Pleasure versus desire.
Pleasure versus desire. We were just talking about communication. I'm Dr. Kelly Frank. I'm a pelvic health physical therapist.
I'm Dr. Leslie Worth. I'm a certified sex therapist.
Awesome. All right, so we're scheduling sex, even though if we don't think we are, and we need to communicate. So how do we communicate?
Right.
With our partners.
Right. So we're talking
what's your best
part
advice?
1, we're talking about like, okay, I'm sure some people are feeling overwhelmed of like, well, now I have 20 steps to do and this feels even more I'm already stressed out because we're not having sex, and maybe I'm more stressed out now because now I have to do all these things. And yes, but once we come up with a system, it just becomes your natural way of working with each other. So communication. So first step is kind of figuring out what Emily Nagoski calls brakes and accelerators, right? Like what really kind of just hits the brakes, hits the wall of being able to transition into that mindset, and what accelerates, going back to that responsive desire, what kind of helps you get there.
Yeah.
And exploring that in her book, Come As You Are, it's focused on females, but she has this quiz, brakes and accelerator quiz that's good for everyone, kind of to think about. And even when my clients come in and they're like, I have all brakes and like one accelerator, and they feel really defeated, I'm like, that's fine. Now we know what we need to navigate, and just accepting that, because they're going back to what I said in part 1. Sometimes people are like, well, this shouldn't bother me. I'm like, but it is.
Yeah. And
trying to just like gaslight yourself or I always say, stop shooting yourselves.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's a thing. And if there's a simple solution, or if there's a solution, let's work towards it.
Yeah.
But communicating like what those things are, right? So there's a couple that comes to my mind where he's just really more kind of, a jokester and keeps things kind of lighthearted. But for her, that kind of just doesn't hit the mark for her. She's just like, you know, it feels like immature or childish. And we kind of explored. For him, it was kind of like I have nervous or anxiety because he was trying to broach it, but didn't really know how, but it was working against him. So it's like, well, we need to figure out how do we build a middle ground between the two needs, right? Of how can he, you know, be a little more serious but still be himself, and how can she be a little more open to his initiating and back and forth and really understanding what's going to help you get there.
Yeah, I think Emily also talks about, too, just, like, your brake or accelerator, like, they could be kind of, like, almost like a different wear, like, different speeds. You know, like, you could have, like, the really quick brakes. We can have the one that kind of, like, we got to take it to the shop soon.
Right. Yeah, the one where it's very sensitive. You just tap it, and it's... Yeah.
Yeah, we're shutting down. Yeah, and I think, like, that we've talked in the past, too, about the mental overload, obviously the physical aspect. I feel like that's where you and I kind of, we touch base, and we share clients, and we try to work with each other on that. Yeah, let's talk about like just like the mental overload.
Right. So going back to from part 1 of like transitions of everything in life, we really do through transitions and routines and rituals or what have you, right? Of I could be really stressed out maybe at home, but most of us are pretty good at going like, okay, what do I need to be able to focus at work? I mean, unless it's like really serious, but we're able to kind of like pivot and that kind of stuff. And it's same with this of if the mental script is just running, it's like, and then we're drawing like, well, I should just be able to kind of like push through that. It's like, no, that's not how that works, right? So going back to of decompression, grounding, or even just talking about it with your partner, right? Finding timing. Sometimes the mental work too is like, I don't think our lives are getting any slower. They're always getting busier. So it's always like, well, when are we going to fit this in? And sometimes that takes time. I'll work with couples and they get frustrated because they come up with a game plan of like, Thursday evenings are the best time, and they try it out and it's not working, but they keep trying to force it to work. And it's like, this is an experiment. We're trying to see what works over time. And how do you help with that mental load? And also sometimes going back to communicating if you need help, right? So sometimes if people feel like they're taking on the brunt of everything, it's how do you communicate that to your partner? I mean, this is not just about sex, but like about balancing life responsibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I think like as a mom, it's kind of like pivoting a little of just like that, like the physical touch, and just like it is hard to then like turn on like a sex drive or
Sure.
turn on, go full accelerator when you really haven't taken those moments you mentioned, like grounding and kind of like resetting throughout the day. I've been telling people lately of just like not even saying like, hey, how do you feel, but like physically touch.
Right.
How do you feel? Oh, I feel
Sure.
squishy. Oh, I feel hard. Like, oh, I feel pain. Oh, I feel numbness. Like physically kind of like just touch even like just different areas, which like maybe makes you look weird and antsy. Like, but just if you are kind of like in, I don't know, drop off of kids or meeting at work, and like, how am I actually feeling? Like, am I sitting here with the most tension?
Right.
And then tonight is that night that we're supposed to try and get a little bit more intimate and
Right.
have some fun. And I'm leading into that day with like 15 points of just the most clenching and the most uncomfortableness.
Right.
Or am I kind of
Loosey-goosey?
kind of like trying to like just jello out for a second?
Right.
Be a
Or
little
if
bit more
you're
relaxed.
jelloed out and then your partner touches you, do you tense up?
Yeah.
Right? Of
Yeah.
like bringing that awareness too of
Yeah.
what is the external or internal experience going on for you. I'm sure you've seen it too with some of your clients of if they have young kids, especially moms, of being touched out,
Oh yeah.
right? They're
Yeah.
getting climbed on all the time, or
Yeah.
or if they're nursing, right? They don't feel like there's that. So going back to like with pleasure too, of like working with the partners of like what's pleasurable is going to shift over time, and that's
Yeah.
okay. So it's not just like, well, this works, this is always going to work.
Yeah, that
That's-
touched out is so hard because it's just, I think if moms, it's finding the, I don't want to say like the correct touch. It's not like the right touch. I forget
It's a
what that
different
song is.
touch.
It's a different
Right,
touch.
it's a
but
touch that's not associated
with anything. And
Right.
even like as a mom, like if your kids are just, they're always like, my kids are always just touching me. Like they're always just sitting really, really close to me. And like, I have my pillows, I have my blanket, I have my kids, like they're just poking and like
breathing on you.
breathing and like just, like if Carson, like my son gets like tired, he'll kind of like just, he'll softly like just rub you, which is like really sweet and nice, but you kind of either you ignore it because it's just so, it can be so overwhelming and annoying,
Right.
that it's easier to kind of just ignore like the kid who's just poke
Right.
with their feet, or a baby or whatever it is. Like that would probably drive you insane if you
Yes.
tried to feel every single kick, every single motion. So you do
have to come
tone it out.
disconnected.
You have to disconnect it
Right.
for mental sanity, I think, as a new parent. And then it's just a lot to ask of. And then even as a postpartum mom or going through any of these transitions in life as a female, your body is physiologically changing.
Right.
The tissue is changing. The health of the tissue, the circulation, all of this stuff is actually changing. So what we felt as a teenager, is going to feel different as an adult, going to feel different at different points in our lives. And it's just that I think we don't
Right. And then if you
take
have
into
any
context.
medical issues like chronic illness or post surgeries or cancer treatment, like this is where
Absolutely.
I think the biggest thing I talk to people of like we want our sex life just to stay constant. Like we learned the tools and it's just going to stay like that forever. And I'm like going back and like nothing in life works that way.
Yeah.
So it's opening the door of how do we always checking in. And I think that goes back to the communication piece of it's not memorizing a set of rules. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and we have it. It's how do we normalize checking in and communicating in live time of what's working, because today I might just have a backache, right? Or I might just be really sore from the gym, and like normally I would love a shoulder massage, but right now don't touch it. So it's really just normalizing that talking of what your experience is and sharing, because I tell clients that too of like, your experience, it's all up here, but your partner doesn't, and you need to be able to share it in a gentle and productive way, not the, oh God, don't touch me there, but like sharing those experiences and not just gritting through. I see a lot of clients, male and female, they're just like, well, that comes up, I just grit through it and just push through, and I'm like, that is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. And maybe that's even probably like generational. Like I don't even know if, I don't know, like I feel like just different generations, like it's like, like we're the generation of like you have to finish like all your vegetables, like you have to finish your plate, like I don't care how much you hate it, like do this and there's a reward or there's a treat, or
suck it up, don't cry.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And like maybe that's a good thing of like the new generation is kind of like, hey, like I am seeing more younger people who are having pain with sex or pain with intimacy or pain with just peeing, pooping, things like that, and they're like, this is not okay.
Right.
Versus the people that are our age or older, and like I don't see them for like 10, 15 years because they just kind of thought it was very normal.
Yeah.
And I guess this is my life now. Like this just sucks, you know, and the younger kids are kind of like, yeah, that was awful. I hated it. I want to fix it. And you're like, oh.
Which is great.
Which is like, it's hard for me to be like, yeah, like obviously, you know, but I'm like, I didn't have to see you this soon. Like usually I see you after 10 years of dealing with this. Cause again, you've been gaslighting yourself, or you've been gaslit by some provider or some person who just says, oh, that's normal.
It's normal. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And same with my younger clients of working with couples, they tend to want to communicate more, but they still don't have the tools of communication, right? So
well, that's the thing too. They're probably the like, yeah, like what is it they call it, the Gen Z stare or something, where it's like they kind of don't. So then like, yeah, you're the people that know that this is not okay and they want to fix it, but then they can't communicate.
Right. And I tell them like, we learn to read and write in school, but we don't learn how to effectively communicate, right?
No.
So I'll go back to them like, well, what did you see from your parents? And their parents are older generations where they're not having healthy discussions or anything. And then also sex still, just from media and also we get of like responsive desire, focusing on pleasure is not illustrated out there. And that's our only really kind of like education unless we're seeking it out. So if we're not lined up that way, then there's something wrong. And I'm like going up here, I'm like, no, what you're seeing is fake.
Yeah.
It's a myth. Like no one's a mind reader. And you have to like the sex scene in the movie was a team of writers, a director, and probably 27 takes to make it look spontaneous and natural. So there's still that they want to come in and they want to address it, but there's still that misconceptions out there or that understanding of like, well, I should just have this strong desire. And if I don't, there's something wrong with me. Or if my partner doesn't have it, then they're not attracted to me. And I'm like, it's really little probably about you or your partner other than like the rest of the world and how you're being impacted.
You know, what would your advice be for that person listening right now that is just sweating with the idea of openly communicating about sex or their own individual needs, right? Or that person that may be rolling their eyes because, well, my partner, you know, or maybe actually back it up. I cut my hair. I always shower, right? I give them compliments, right? They believe that they're communicating, you know, sexual desire, but their partner may not be receiving or tuned into that frequency, right? For that, so what would your advice be for that person that has a hard time articulating it verbally or getting frustrated with a partner that isn't just picking up on, you know, your little breadcrumbs?
Sure. That's a great thing we spend so much time and mental energy on all these like covert cues and all that stuff, and I'm like, it would be so much easier if you just took 2 seconds and just talked. So it's building up to it, right? So with pleasure and with sex, I'm like, it's supposed to be playful and fun, right? So can we approach it with curiosity? Can we approach it with warmth and even about yourself of like feeling curious of like, what does this touch feel like and do for me? That's where sensate exercises, which we'll get into deeper in another episode, can be really helpful of like a really mindful way of interacting. And you have to learn for yourself before you can communicate that to your partner. So it's always starting with like, do you know, like going back to what you were saying of like, do I even aware of what's going on with me to be able to communicate that? And starting off of like talking about sex when you're not trying to have sex, right? Taking that pressure off, being able just to, even if you're watching a movie and you both kind of go like, was that, you know, if it's a sex scene or a romantic comedy or whatever, of like, what did you think of that? Was that sexy? Was that awkward? You know, and externalizing it, talking about it from a TV or a movie stance, and just building up. There's a lot of great tools out there of like conversation starter card decks that you can start of just starting talking about emotions first, right? Like if I don't even feel comfortable talking to my partner when I'm stressed out or basic emotions, like we need to normalize that before we even get to these like more vulnerable topics.
I think that, like, just that emotional piece, yeah, all those different topics, but also from my standpoint too, just the education of just what are these parts, how are they working, how are they supposed to work. If they're faulty, we have nerve problems, muscle problems, tension problems.
Yeah.
Like,
or even education of
yeah.
like, you're doing that for women who don't know, but it's like men need that education too,
Yeah,
right? Of
like, I know you
what
work
is
with
the clitoris?
Yeah, like you work with couples, and like I work with couples of just like, it's great to then have that partner, female, male, whoever they are, just to come in and just educating them on if these are exercises or stretches or like manual therapy things, like they're going to perform them. The goal is not sex right now. It's just honestly understanding your partner, or if they, you know, they can't handle it not going into sex, then like you do have to kind of still educate on like, hey, when you go this direction or when you move in this direction, like I need, like, yeah, ask me how I feel with that. Like, does that actually feel okay, or does it not feel okay?
Right.
You know, and that's a huge piece that we don't do anymore. We forget.
Yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier of just like, it's the live time check-ins. And before we're even doing that about sex, doing that of just like throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like of
it comes right back to it. Yeah.
And going like, we ask how we're doing, and I challenge my people too of like, this is not the Publix cashier asking how you're doing, right? Where we default to fine. It's if your partner's asking, taking that pause and really checking in and like, how are you actually feeling and experiencing?
Yeah.
And being able to share that.
Yeah.
And building upon that and normalizing that way when you're in an intimate moment, it doesn't feel super foreign to actually communicate.
Yeah. This is like same but different. Like we were at a restaurant and the, you know, guy came over and was like, "Hey, how was your food?" And I was kind of like, it was okay.
Right.
And usually I am a very, very like glass half full, very like, "Oh, it was so great. Thank you so much." You know, and I was kind of like, that was not what I was expecting. Right. And then he kind of got like, "Oh my gosh, like this is not the response I normally
this
get.
This is not the normal."
And, you know, but I was like, you know what? No, I do want to come back here and I do want it to get better. And I think that just with probably anything in life, like I need to actually tell you my real true experience of like, this was not 5 stars.
No. And I think this is a great note.
And it was fine. Like the pasta was fine. The sauce, again, just, it wasn't even my expectation. It was more like, you're claiming it was this. I think this was American bacon, not like a pancetta. Which is like random and weird, but like it was, no, I think you need to change that.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of men do that. They claim they have something very fancy, and that ends up just being regular old American bacon.
Yeah, I was like, this is not the same.
Well, I think a good note to end on too with that too is, it's okay to say not every experience was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Right, of just going back to like, it was was it pleasurable, was it not, and debriefing afterwards of just like, we don't need to lie to ourselves or to your partner of just saying that was so magical if it wasn't.
Yeah.
And even just starting there of just being honest, like you were at the restaurant, of like, we don't need a default of just like, that was great. That opened up the conversation of, wasn't hitting the mark or it wasn't super, you know, it was okay, but there are some things, and then that opens the door of like,
to be able to heal,
to be able
or
to
address, to get progression, like just to get more partnership.
Right.
Yeah.
And opening that door for vulnerability of sharing what that experience was like.
Yes. I love it.
Sweet. So
we did it. We solved it. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a simple answer to a really complex problem, and it's hard to initiate, like to implement of being able. It's easier for me to say, we'll just talk to each other.
Yeah. But we are talking to each other, and we're talking to each other, and we're talking to you, and we're talking to. We want you to have these conversations, maybe with us, maybe with your partner, maybe with somebody else. Like, I don't care, just talk about it. That's literally the whole point of this.
Start somewhere where it feels slightly uncomfortable, and then we grow from there.
Yeah.
So just even if you go up to your partner and say, I think this is a topic we need to talk about. Perfect.
I love it. That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, and we'll see you again soon.
Next time.
Yeah.